a reptilian, they be on the news. They live among society next to me and you. This a Pleiadian, they look like Caucasians, but they was in on the Great Earth invasion. This an Arcturian, they skin complexion blue, but they is no different from me and neither you. Man, this a great, this a little evil being. Some of them cool, I'll know it when I see them. This a insect, no, sometimes you gotta watch them, cause if they get out of line, I gotta squash them. This a lion, look like lions, I ain't lying. They my dogs, they was next to me while fighting. This a draconian, they be invading planets. I'm tired of the evil ones, I motherfucking had it. We're with a Maya, descendant of Anunnaki. We straight from Sirius, so no nigga can stop me. We can't forget about them sexy ass mermaids. If I could swim, I would take their ass on a date. I only fuck with some of the Andromedans, cause when they get together, ain't no fuck. This a reptilian.
I do, they don't exist.
In the court,
a lot of the information that made it into this book right here come from ancient text.
Well, the Bible is a collection of ancient texts, so duh.
Everywhere where Jesus is actually speaking, his words actually come from the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which are 36,000 years old.
Oh, Billy. Billy. Where are the Emerald Tablets of Thoth? Can you show us them? What have Egyptologists said about them? You know, as well as I do, they don't exist. In 1925, Maurice Doreal claimed he went to the Great Pyramids of Giza, claimed he found the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and then claimed he translated them. But he never produced a scrap of evidence to back up his claims, and at this point in your career, you've got to know this is true.
If you have the Gospel of the Holy 12, which is also missing from the Bible.
Oh, for crying out loud. That's not missing from the Bible. That's a forged document that's only about 100 years old. It's not in the Bible because there's no evidence it existed when the canon was being put together.
If you have the Gospel of the Holy 12, you discover that when Jesus was 12 years old, he disappears from the Bible, and he's in this text.
You've just set sail on the SS Imagination.
He goes to Egypt for what? To study the Egyptian mysteries. Who invented the first Egyptian mystery school? Or it really was called the Kemetic Mysteries. Who developed that? They were developed by Thoth, the Atlantean priest king.
We are reaching levels of conspiracy theories not thought possible.
So when he's speaking in the New Testament, the reason why a lot of what he's saying is matching the Emerald Tablets is because that's where it came from.
No, the reason why some things match is because Maurice Doreal made all this up in the 20th century. There's not an Egyptologist alive who takes this tinfoil hat nonsense seriously.
in the courtroom, several teenagers.
So why is Maurice like the only orangutan on Planet of the Apes?
Has all this scatterbutt from the fan.
When the lender receives the actual cash.
Thoth, an immortal being of immense knowledge, possibly one of the Anunnaki.
Yeah, literally everything in that video from start to finish is absolute bullcrap. First and foremost, everything in that video rests on the presupposition that the Emerald Tablets of Thoth is a legitimate Hermetic or even ancient text, and it's not. But don't take my word for it. Check out the investigative research done by the folks over at the Think Two New Worlds website, where they elucidate on not only the nonsense found in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, but pretty much the entirety of Claude Dodgen, aka Maurice Doreal's entire professional writing career. And that also goes for nonsense like Billy Carson's Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, which pretty much rests on the presupposition that the Emerald Tablets of Thoth is legitimate, which, of course, it is not. If you are interested in learning more about the actual Emerald Tablets, I urge you to get a copy of the Corpus Hermeticum. And in the Corpus Hermeticum...
All right, so there's... Do you know what this is and what this represents? Pause the video and tell me what this is in the comments below. Don't cheat. If you said that this behind me is called the Emerald Tablets, then you would be correct. But what you have to understand is that one emerald tablet out there in the world is real and one is a fake. They have been lying to you about the emerald tablets. If you cannot handle logic, reasoning, evidence, or if you are highly susceptible to cognitive dissonance. And if you don't have a certain color of conscience, this is not the video for you. You have 3 seconds to scroll. 1, 2, 3. Before I break down this lie, you have to understand a story about a man who claimed to speak to the king of Atlantis. In the early 20th century, there was a boy named Claude D. Dodgen, born in a modest family in the statehood of Oklahoma. From a young age, Claude experienced very strange things. Entities from other realms visited him. Masters spoken to him in his bedroom. Like many working class families, he wouldn't have an education above the elementary level. But he felt from these experiences with these entities that he was destined for spiritual greatness. He changes his name to what many of you would know him by, which is Maurice Doro, a self-proclaimed mystic and spiritual leader. At the end of his life, he was dismissed by many as a fraud, especially by those in the academic and scholarly circles. But he was also still loved by many, and his organizations continued along with his teachings. The critique was based around his claims of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. This is one of the greatest lies that I have come across within the spiritual and conscious network online. And I will show you the difference between this fraudulent Emerald Tablet and the Emerald Tablet that is very real and contains very deep knowledge. First, let me walk you through why this tablet that he claims to have translated is a fake. Many of you should brace yourselves for severe cognitive dissonance and the inability to accept evidence in reason and logic and awareness. Normally, ancient texts have obvious evidence that shows their validity. So either you will find the text itself, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, or other ancient cultures of that time will make constant reference to that text. Maurice Doro did not provide an Emerald Tablet of Thoth, ever. So to ask a scholar, someone who's serious about information, just to believe it, but faith is absurd. 2, actual, genuine artifacts like this, ancient text, normally have the linguistic or the stylistic traditions of its time. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth instead have the linguistic and stylistic and cultural habits of our time. And finally, if you, in any empirical field, if you discover something extraordinary, then you have to let people study it independently. Again, when the Dead Sea Scrolls came out, people had to study it independently in order to verify the claims that the people who discovered it made. In fear of this, for a while did keep the scrolls from being shown to other experts, but eventually scholarship won and people got to study it. Because there is no Emerald Tablet of Thoth, no one has studied it independently except for him, as he claims. Meaning we have no way to verify if what he said is true. We just have to believe him. Here is a picture of the real Emerald Tablet.
Girl, what are you?
If you're like me and you're into like the metaphysical type stuff, you've probably heard of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Now this is M. Dorian. That last picture was him too. This is the guy who supposedly translated the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Now there's a lot of controversy around this guy. Apparently he was a crazy occult leader. His wife divorced him because she thought he was cheating on him. There's a bunch of weird things about this guy if you do some research. But supposedly he translated the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Now, I don't know if you are familiar with it. If you are, that's good. Then this is a video that you could probably wrap your head around. So the idea that the Emerald Tablets are possibly fake, like he made these up. Now this right here is the Hermetic Emerald Tablet. So,
well, whether or not if this book was actually copied from the Emerald Tablets, I have my doubts. Though they kind of feel like they're from the same vein. Again, my particular belief is that the Quran of the Moors, for lack of a better word, be it of the Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, or if you just want to call it the Circle 7 like so many did. It's my contention that that book is an amalgamation of two other books put together. And someone has already advised me that the book that Noble Jew Ali bought was not copied from those books, but copied from a book referred to as the Book of Remembrance, or the Book of Allah's Remembrance. And frankly, I'm kind of skeptical about that too. Before I go into why, let me just go and say probably something that a lot of...
If you're going to base your entire eternity on information in one book, shouldn't you know everything about it?
Tablets of Thoth left out of our history books. If you don't know, Thoth was the Egyptian god of wisdom, and he made the Emerald Tablets, which is 42 documents written in cryptic Hermetic text.
Because they don't exist. They were made up by Maurice Doreal, who claimed he went to Egypt, claimed he found Emerald Tablets, and then claimed he translated them with the help of Thoth. The only problem is he never produced these tablets, and the reason why this isn't in history books is because Doreal is a charlatan who couldn't fool actual historians.
Crazy old Maurice. He's always good for a laugh.
And yeah, they claim that they were destroyed in a fire or something like that.
No, we point out they never existed.
And I'm willing to bet that those, along with many other crucial documents that can prove the origins of humanity and our history, are chilling in the Vatican archives.
That's right. When you don't have evidence for what you believe in, just say it's been locked away in the Vatican archive. That way you can never be wrong.
Zion is a 100-year-old book. The book claims to be a real record of a secret meeting. In this secret meeting, powerful Jewish people plot to take over the world, secretly start wars, manipulate banks and media, and form an eternal one-world government. The existence of a few wealthy Jewish families was spun into conspiracy theories of an insular and self-interested Hebrew cabal out to control the world. Protocols of the Elders of Zion is a 100-year-old...
If you've listened to conspiracy stuff at all ever, you've probably heard of the protocols.
In there with that Zechariah stitching, we got you, nigga. We know where you... We ain't... A lot of y'all say, oh, this nigga they get up off of Billy Carson. No, we're not going to get up off of Billy Carson because we know he in there with that Zechariah stitching. We got you, nigga. We know where you took it because we already got on Malachi Z. York about stealing from Zechariah stitching. We already know. Yeah, we already know you got that shit from Zechariah or one of them Ashkenazis. Yeah, we know about Zechariah. You see, yeah, with all that goddamn Talmudic, goddamn Kabbalic. You see what I'm saying? Fairy tales that y'all, you know, mixing up magic. That's all y'all doing is mixing up magic and trying to fool the people with this goddamn tomfoolery. But we ain't gonna let you do it. We're not gonna let you do it, Billy. Anytime you want to get with me, then you get on out here quick, fast, in a hurry. You know, this comparison. You see, that's the outsider. This is not the Africans that's making this comparison. See, now that's a way of usurping. See, these motherfuckers is tethers. That's what they doing. They latching on. They leeching on. You see, and then they using slick wording to make you think that the Africans saw Amun-Ra as Marduk, but that's not true. That's just like Muslims. They say that Allah gave Moses the Torah and say gave Jesus the gospel. But Christians and Jews just don't agree with the Muslim. They don't agree with that. And so you got to understand this is what the Orientalists, the theosophical Orientalist thieves is doing. And if you don't have no understanding of African history, you will believe because they are saying all these things, but you notice they never give a reference. And if they do, it's some form of pseudo record that ain't got no historical reference whatsoever. So let me tell y'all first and foremost, when they quote from this Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean, that is a record that come out of a book that was written in 1930 by an occultist by the name, I believe his name was Maurice Doreal, something like Maurice Doreal. Okay, that's who wrote that book. And so they didn't patch it, just like the Moors took the Circle 7 Quran out of the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ. Y'all got to understand, these are cult books. You see what I'm saying? They taken from these occultists and theosophists. And so there is no emerald tablets of Thoth the Atlantean. You see, stealing, and right there, stealing the legacy from Africa and creating some mythological land such as Atlantis and give them credit for it. Just as long as we don't get no goddamn credit, that's all that matters. That the Cro-Magnon Neanderthal has lost the war of trying to claim Egypt. So what he's doing, he's trying to at least make sure that we don't get credit for the which is our legacy. At least make sure that we don't get credit for the which is our legacy. And so what better is to get one of our own kind to come out here and espouse this garbage. Okay, so
also, he's deciphering these. Originally, I came across the work of Zecharia Sitchin, and I realized that he was giving the location of his sources for where he got his ideas. He found that he was using material that was already translated long before he was born. I said, holy crap, this stuff is not what people think. You got to read these tablets. I got into the Enuma Elish and the 7 tablets of creation, and I also got into the Epic of Atrahasis. Both of them tell an incredible tale, the creation of the solar system, as well as the explosion of Tiamat.
Do you ever read the Zecharia Sitchin books? It's called The 12th Planet. It's wild. In this book, what he's done is he's decoded ancient Sumerian. That's the oldest known language. He believes that it's a detail of us being visited by another race from another planet, and that they come here and they genetically engineer lower primates, and that they created us. And this is essentially like a giant ant farm.
Holy shit, can you imagine that first fucking monkey like in some weird floating pyramid tied to a table with these like
Zecharia Sitchin, who's no longer living, he's deceased a few years ago, claimed to be an ancient languages expert. He was presented by his publisher and his publicist as a scholar of ancient languages. I don't believe that Zecharia Sitchin could read or translate any ancient language. It was disappointing at first because I thought he might be a kindred spirit. He was not. He's basically making up an alien narrative out of ancient Near Eastern texts, like Enuma Elish or the Gilgamesh epic. And his claim to fame, his original book is called The 12th Planet, where he describes his belief, based upon his alleged translation work, that the Sumerian tablets describe a civilization of extraterrestrials known as the Anunnaki, who came to Earth from a planet called Nibiru and created human beings and or genetically modify an existing ape-like creature to create humans out of that thing. This is his narrative, and he has convinced millions of people this is the true history of life on this planet. Now, the reason that's demonstrably wrong is you can actually go look up online the term Anunnaki in all of the Mesopotamian texts that Sitchin cites. You will find that there isn't a single tablet that has the Anunnaki on Nibiru. You will find that Nibiru is actually described as Jupiter or Mercury or just a star, but no planet, again, out in the outer reaches of the solar system where Sitchin puts it. You'll never find the Anunnaki riding in a craft anywhere. You won't find all of the core ideas, or any of the core ideas, that Sitchin has for his mythology. So it's not very difficult to show that he's wrong. I've gone on a number of radio shows and basically just put it this way. How Zecharia Sitchin, who's no
I googled it and found a lot, namely this. Nibiru is a planet listed in the writings of Zecharia Sitchin, particularly his book The 12th Planet. According to Sitchin's interpretation of Babylonian religious texts, a giant planet called Nibiru passes by Earth every 3,600 years and allows its sentient inhabitants to interact with humanity. These beings, which Sitchin identified with the Anunnaki of Sumerian myth, would become humanity's first gods. My favorite internet encyclopedia says there's supposed to be a collision. The Nibiru collision is a disastrous encounter between the Earth and a large planetary object. Believers in this doomsday event usually refer to this object as Planet X, or Nibiru.
The doomsday event?
I am of the Anunnaki, interdimensional beings that visit the planet Earth every few thousand years. We arrive at a time called Nibiru, when the barriers between our worlds grow weak. The Anunnaki have a great history of helping humans, but we have no physical form and must inhabit animals. This is why some animals, our descendants, can talk and others cannot. But not all Anunnaki are kind and good. There are evil ones, and the most evil one of all is imprisoned beneath Crystal Cove and must not be set free.
Was an author known for his works in the history of mankind's origins involving ancient astronauts. Born in Russia in 1920 and raised in Palestine, he acquired a deep knowledge of modern and ancient Hebrew, other Semitic and European languages, the Old Testament, and the history and art.
Fuck it, I'ma crank they head. I done already cranked they head. Sadie done already cranked they head. Back when young Pharaoh was Pharaoh, he cranked they head. Madame Blavatsky exposed New Age theosophy, New Age yoga, satanic Buddha, Kabbalah. Okay, exposed Raelianism, exposed Book of Zion. Okay, y'all got to get hip to this etymology, right? You want to try to say Dizan. No, it's Zion. The D is silent, comprising the stanzas of Dian. Is a reputedly ancient text, right? Irresputable. What's undisputed, shit like that. This is reputedly ancient text of Tibetan origin. The stanzas form the basis of the secret doctrine. 1888, one of the foundational works of the Theosophical movement by Helena Prabhana Blavatsky. The book has influenced writers in the ancient astronaut, Billy Carson, occult, and UFO communities. This is where your shit come from. You gonna let a cracker, you gonna let a troglodyte, you gonna let a cold-blooded, self-proclaimed Satanist. This is where your ancient alien Anunnaki shit come from. This. You see it say right there, UFO community, occult UFO community, Anunnaki, reptilian, Egypt, the whole nine, right? We got to get to the bottom of it. Okay? Historians and skeptics have dismissed the Book of Zion as a hoax and have accused Blavatsky of plagiarism. I'm telling y'all, Madame Blavatsky's claims, you see how this is the same thing with Zechariah Sitchin. You claim to see the Emerald Tablet. Okay, Maurice DeRille, you claim to see the Emerald Tablet. Zechariah Sitchin claimed to interpret some Babylonian texts. Come on, man. What they say? Madame Blavatsky claimed to have seen a manuscript of the Book of Zion while studying esoteric lore in Tibetan. And we all know lore is just lore, right? She claimed this and other ancient manuscripts were safeguarded from profane acts by the initiates of an occult brotherhood, right? The work, now this is a cult, everything was, satanic shit, devil shit, baby offering shit. The work had originally, according to Blavatsky, been written in a sacred language of Sinzar, a language unknown to philology, okay? The first installment of esoteric doctrines is based upon the standards, which are the records of people unknown to ethnology. It is claimed that they are written in a tongue absent from nomenclature of languages and dialects with philology is acquainted. They are said to emanate from a source, occultism, reputed by science. And finally, they are offered through an agency incessantly discredited before the world by all those who hate unwelcome truth or have some special hobby of their own to defend. Therefore, the rejection of these teachings may be expected. It must be accepted beforehand. No, bye. It's a whole lot of dumb shit. 1909, Theosophist Charles Webster Leadbeater, stated that the Book of Zion possesses occult qualities. Okay. So you see it's in Buddha. Okay. Other researchers have suggested a source in Chinese Taoism or Jewish Kabbalah. Okay. This is Buddhism. In Isis Unveiled, Blavatsky herself identified Sinzar as being ancient Sanskrit. Okay. Since some link to Egyptian sources, while yet others are still of other roots. So if you can't see that they mixing and they spinning you can't see that? Criticism. What things most times you look up come with the criticism? Orientalists. These are Blavatsky and them. Orientalists undertook a complete exegesis of her writings. He found that her main sources were H. Wilson's translation of the Vishnu Purana. See, it's all these translations by the troglodyte. Alexander Winchel's World Life or Contemporary Geology. Ignatius Donnelly's Atlantis, the Antediluvian world, right? Like 1882, right around her time, and other contemporary scientific and occult works plagiarized without credit, and in his own opinion, used in a blundering manner that showed supernatural acquaintance with the subjects under discussion. The Anunnaki. He further claimed that she took at least part of the stanzas of Zion from the hymn of creation in Old Sanskrit Rig Veda. Coleman promised a book that would expose Blavatsky sources, including the word Zion. The reason Coleman's book never appeared is that Coleman lost his library and his notes in 1906 in an earthquake and died 3 years later. R.I.P. to the big homie of exposed Blavatsky. Okay. Blavatsky claimed to have received her information during the trance. Blavatsky claimed to receive her information during a trance in which the masters of Mahatamas of Tibet communicated with her and allowed her to read the ancient book of Zion. So the Brahma's in a yoga trance and said she read the book in a trance and came back, and you niggas is running with the crystals and the beads and the witchcraft and the life path, right? The Book of Zion was supposedly composed in Atlantis using the lost language of Sinzar. But the difficulty is that no scholar of the ancient language in the 1880s or since has encountered the slightest passing reference to the Book of Zion or Sinzar legend. Cold-blooded lies. Jason Colavito has dismissed the book as a hoax and has noted that even after skeptics debunked her Book of Zion as a fraud, her followers continue to motherfucking assert its reality. God damn. I didn't have to read that again for y'all. Blavatsky claimed to have received her information during a trance in which the masters of the Matamahas of Tibet communicated with her and allowed her during a trance to read from the ancient Book of Zion. The Book of Zion was supposedly composed in Atlantis. Moors, where you at? Using the lost language of Zinzar, but the difficulty is that no scholar of ancient language in the 1880s or since has encountered the slightest passing reference to the Book of Zion and Sin. Some guy named Jason DeCarvalito has dismissed the book as a hoax and noted that even after skeptics debunked her Book of Zion as a fraud, her followers continue to assert its reality. Man, all I did was type in Battle of Blavatsky in the Book of Zion, right? So here you go. Blavatsky in the Book of Zion. Right? But see, this how now they hit you with the protocols and the elders of Zion. But that ain't where she got her shit from. Remember, we exposed her back with this one, the lie that wouldn't die. Right? We exposed Gandhi was with this racist theosophical shit. You could tell by the way he's sitting and the cloak, the veil, the cowl over his shoulders. These are previous lessons we have taught. Okay? Yeah, but this video about you niggas getting real comfortable in this new age occultism, man. You're getting real comfortable in new age occultism. I'm talking to you, black guy, black girl, especially black girl. Good God Almighty, these black girls love them some occult, some new age. Right, so we proved this bride wrong, and she's the mother of all this shit. Zachariah Stitchin proved wrong, he's the father of all this shit. Maurice Durrell proven wrong, he the father of all this shit. Billy Carson, Brother Rich, okay, who else? Billy Carson, Young Pharaoh, Crumb TV, who else? The Alien Boys, all the Alien Boys, right? All the yoga, you know, what's that fool name? Alicio Bishops. Who else I'm missing? You know, all of them. All the Anunnaki, alien, reptilian dudes. When you walk that shit back and do your own research and don't just listen to these Bro Sanchez ass niggas talking about no melanin and all these. Instead of just listening to these niggas, pull your phone out your fucking pocket and walk that shit back. Listen to somebody else who's a naysayer and then prove them wrong. Go see what the naysayers say. Go see what the motherfuckers say, nah, they wrong, they lying. And then research them. That's how you come to a truthful answer. And then doing that, the Anunnaki shit has been disproven. Mansa Musa sent you niggas over here when he was the richest man in the world. And the cracker wrote these books that they telling y'all they the only ones to interpret from these ancient Eastern texts. And y'all done ran with it and wrapped the crystals around your forehead and sat in your yoga pose. And you dig what I'm saying? Like, this shit is getting out of hand, man. I'm calling y'all out, black people. Black people, I'd rather y'all get into hoodoo, get into your shit. Get into the voodoo and the hoodoo that's more powerful than this bullshit. They spooking you out with this devil shit. But yeah, man, y'all let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the Cash App. I'm out.
So, Amun-Ra got into pyramid wars. Pyramid wars with Tahuti and goddamn burnt up all the... I mean, this is what they teaching now. Now, I mean, what records do you have with such... I mean, this shit is on a scale that's off the damn meters. You see, this is shit you see in movies. This is not history. I'm sick of you niggas thinking y'all could get away with this theosophic bullshit. Now, y'all know y'all cannot run this on me. You know, you cannot run this shit on me. I've been studying theosophy now for over 30 goddamn years, okay? You're not gonna run it down on me. I know all these stories. I was showing you my prowess damn near 20 years ago when I debated Aleem. I know where the occultists, I know what y'all rooted in. Yeah, I know what you root. I know the 7 root races. I understand all the ascended masters. This Tahu, this Thoth that he's speaking of, I mean, in other, because you know you got denominations of theosophy. You got the other one, Serapis Bey. You got the other one, Serapis Bey. He's much like Thoth. You see, who came from Atlantis and founded the Temple of Luxor, or what they call the Great White Brotherhood, and started initiations in Egypt Yeah, I mean, it's the same story, but it's Serapis Bey. And then you got the other ascended masters, El Moria and what's his name, Saint Germain, and all these other characters of ascended masters. So I didn't study this shit already, and it's fabricated. It's fabricated, and it's crazy how the root races, they start with the Polarian race. They didn't move it out of Africa to the North Pole, and then you got the next root race, the Hyperboreans, which is not that far from the North Pole. So the first two races, see how they didn't stole African history. And I heard Madame Blavatsky talk about the Lumerians because they were supposedly black, but she said that the Lumerians were spiritually wicked. You understand what I'm saying? Doing all type of foul shit, and that's why they fell from grace. I heard what she said. Yeah, so we don't understand behind the scenes what these theosophists is teaching, but what he's doing is clearly tethering to ancient Egypt, bringing, and they really don't even understand the Sumerian text, which is Cushite also, so they actually demonizing Sumeria, but it's easier to do it to Sumeria because they really was not as advanced where you got all these writings. They got a few scrolls. They don't even have scrolls. They have stones that they done carved into, and they don't have nearly as much documentation that as ancient Egypt. You see,
bringing their knowledge from
that, once I plant these seeds, then eventually who was also a Masonic jurist
of the soul from the Masonic aspect as well, and how a lot of the theosophy teachings are from the East, and Jamal al-Afghani was her teacher, and how a lot of the theosophy teachings are from the East, and Jamal al-Afghani was her teacher,
and how a lot of the theosophy teachings are from the East, and Jamal al-Afghani was her teacher.
And also in the winter of 1881 or 82, I believe, he came to America with his disciple Muhammad Abdu, who was also a Masonic jurist scholar and religious reformer, and together they taught the parents of Noble Drew Ali. He came to America with his disciple Muhammad Abdu, who was also a Masonic jurist scholar and religious reformer, and together they taught the parents of Noble Drew Ali.
He came to America with his disciple Muhammad Abdu, who was also a Masonic jurist scholar and religious reformer, and together they taught the parents of Noble Drew Ali.
And that's when they had planted the seeds, knowing what was to come, as even Noble Drew Ali, when he went there to the east, the elders of Egypt and Morocco were already expecting him. So he was sent here to plant these seeds, knowing that, once I plant these seeds, then eventually the Moorish Science Temple will come to fruition. That, once I plant these seeds, then eventually the Moorish Science Temple will come to fruition.
That, once I plant these seeds, then eventually the Moorish Science Temple will come to fruition.
All of these things will happen. Same thing with, on the right-hand side, you have W.D. Fard Muhammad, who also came in the, Allah came in the form of Fard Muhammad. So that's what, Nation of Gods and Earth is teaching you, is that, what this man accomplished, all of you can too, by becoming one with that divine being. So he was also from the East, from the India-Pakistan area. So both of these gentlemen and, brothers that came from the East to the West, bringing their knowledge from the East to the West, Masonically speaking, they came here and they planted these seeds. And, what we see, whether it's 5%ers, Moorish Science Temple, Nation of Islam, is because of these brothers that brought their knowledge from the East to the West. Whether it's 5%ers, Moorish Science Temple, Nation of Islam, is because of these brothers that brought their knowledge from the East to the West.
Whether it's 5%ers, Moorish Science Temple, Nation of Islam, is because of these brothers that brought their knowledge from the East to the West.
And planted the seeds here. Now, not too many people might know about their history in that aspect, but what they're teaching you, is the immortality of the soul and becoming one with the divine is what all of these spiritual, paths profess, to become the perfect temple, whether it's Sufism, Islam, Freemasonry, the 5%ers, all paths, like Clarence 13X says, if you do righteousness, that's what you'll get. If you're wicked, that's what you'll get. So it's about honoring the teachings of those that came before us, planet, so we can pass that on to our children, because the children will be the link to the future and the generations.